Hey there, Saki here from Saki Tech, and in today's video I would like to share over 50 plus tips and tricks for your iPad Pro that will enhance the use of your new powerful iPad. I want to make sure that you guys master your iPad Pro. Alright, tip number one, how to access the Spotlight search from any screen. So let's say you're in Safari. Normally what you would have to do is you would have to be outside and you either swipe down or you swipe to the left to access the Spotlight search. But with this option here, you can be at any window such as Safari, and all you have to do is slowly swipe down the notifications panel and the Spotlight search becomes available immediately. Now this is slightly different than pulling down the notifications panel. You can do that as well, and there's a Spotlight search. But this way what you do is when you swipe it slowly and just stop right there, the keyboard comes up and you're ready to go for your search. Now let me take a quick pause really quick before we dive into the remainder of the tips and tricks. Let me announce a massive 500 product, that's right, 500 product worldwide giveaway. All you have to do is pay shipping and handling. For this, I partnered with the people over at Vozon.com, which is this fantastic store that sells accessories for just about any of your Apple products. And they have agreed to give away 500 of the following products. For iPad users, a beautiful leather sleeve. For iPhone users, an ultra clear iPhone case. For Apple Watch users, a tempered glass screen protector. For iMac users, a webcam cover. And for MacBook users, a USB to USB-C adapter. So to get a product, all you have to do is go to the page in the description below, click on the product you want, add it to the cart, and use the promo code FREETECH to get it discounted off your order. Also, if we get 4,000 likes in this video, Vozon.com will add another 500 products. Now please keep in mind that we want the most people to enjoy the giveaway, so all packages are sent individually to avoid people ordering a bunch of them in the same package. Alright, so let's continue with the tips. Alright, so the next tip has to do with Safari. So let's say you have multiple tabs running on Safari and you want to close them all at the same time. It's actually very doable. So normally what you would do is you would tap on this X to close a tab. But if you have a bunch of these running, let's say you have hundreds of these tabs open, maybe 20, maybe 30, whatever. All you do is tap and hold on this icon right here and wait till this option to show up that says close 2 tabs. Now if you had 10 tabs, it would say close 10 tabs. So let's tap on that and both tabs are gone. Alright, so the next tip has to do with the Notes application. Basically this allows you to lock down individual notes, meaning you can password protect individual notes so only you can access them using your fingerprint or using a password. Let me show you what I mean. So let's launch the Notes application. Now as you know, you can have as many notes as you want. Now here's a note that I just created just for the sake of demonstration. It says this is private. So what if I wanted to lock this note down so nobody else can access it but me? All you do is tap this share icon right here and go to lock a note. And from here, if you have fingerprint security enabled, it's going to ask you to touch the Touch ID sensor to lock this note. Or if you haven't done that, you can simply enter the current password and that's going to allow you to lock the note. So let me just use my fingerprint so you can see how that works. Lock note. I tap right here and boom, that lock has been added to that note. So basically let me just exit this area real quick. Let me exit the Notes application. Let's go back in and let's say I want to access that note. As you can see, I get no information. Now that's the title, so the title is going to remain there, but you do not see the contents of the actual note. If you want to view the note, you tap this and then you simply put your fingerprint back on there and it's going to unlock the note and show you all the contents inside. Absolutely fantastic. Alright, so the next tip has to do with restrictions. So basically you can add restrictions to your iPad and all this falls under the security umbrella. So let me show you exactly what I'm talking about. So just take a look at Safari and App Store and just remember that they are right over here. Okay, let's go into the settings really quick. Let's go to General and let's go into where it says Restrictions. Tap on it. And what I want you to do is tap on Enable Restrictions. Now when you enable the restrictions for the first time, it's going to ask you to pick a passcode that is independent of your passcode that you use to unlock the iPad. This is a completely separate passcode just for restrictions. For demonstration, let's make a simple one up. So that's 000. It's going to ask you to re-enter it. And now the restrictions are enabled. So basically what it's saying here is, do you want to allow these apps to exist or not? So I can disable Safari, I can disable camera, and when I go back out, as you can see, Safari and the camera app, they're disappeared. They've been restricted, so nobody else can use them now if I give them my iPad. And of course, that's not everything that you can do. Let's go back into settings really quick. Let's go back into restrictions. Now, when you exit the restrictions and you try to go back in, obviously it's going to ask you to put your password in. That's how it's protected. So you can disable all these things. You can disable Siri, you can disable FaceTime, and you can disable AirDrop. You can also disable people from installing, deleting, or performing in-app purchases. So here it says installing applications. Let's disable that. Let's disable deleting applications, and also let's disable in-app purchases. This one really helps because sometimes you give your iPad to a kid and they go into a game and then they go nuts. They just buy anything that they can. So if you disable in-app purchases, that's never gonna happen. Anyway, let me go back out really quick. And when you go out, as you can see, the app store has disappeared. And if I try to delete any app by tapping and holding, the option, the little X symbol that shows up on top of the application normally does not show up. So I cannot delete apps, install apps, or even perform in-app purchases. Absolutely fantastic. Now there's some more things going on in here. Oops, wrong menu. Restrictions. So let's go back in. Now that you know that restrictions is an option that you have, you can go here and you can look at all these different options you can disable if you so desire. So these restrictions give you a lot of power on restricting your iPad, especially if this is something you're going to be giving to your friends or family members all the time. Other people do some crazy things. Alright guys, let's move on to the next tip. Alright, the next tip. So basically, let's say you have something that you want to select for copying and pasting purposes. Normally what you would have to do is you have to tap this and hold here. That brings up that select window. Then you tap select and you have to choose and all that stuff. And sometimes it's in fact a pain in the ass to select the text so you can copy and paste it. What you could do is you can use two fingers and put those fingers together on the keyboard, and that allows you to select a given text with laser precision. Okay, as you can see, I can select just that part and then I can just tap on it and I can copy, paste, cut, whatever I want to do. Okay, so use the keyboard as a selection device. Now the next step has to do with some security features, and before I go into the security features, let me quickly show you this right here. So I'm sure everybody knows this, but when you pull this down, you've got the notifications panel. When you pull this up, you've got the control center. Now the funny thing is, the notifications panel often has private information on it. So it makes sense that you can access all that information when the iPad is unlocked, okay? And same with the control center. You can go in here, you can access your lights from the home panel, you can access your music player, and you can access some of the controls on the iPad from the control center. And again, it's natural that you can control these when the iPad is unlocked. Now, what if the iPad is in fact locked? Let me lock the iPad really quick, and then unlock it. Not unlock it, just turn it on. And I can still access the notifications panel. And if somebody had sent me a message, a private message or whatever, any kind of information is going to show up right here, even though the iPad is locked. Same with the control center. Anybody can access my control center, and maybe they can go over here and turn off the lights in the living room or whatever. So to restrict this from happening, what you want to do, let me just unlock the iPad. Go into the settings, go to Touch ID and passcode, then put your password in, which I just did, and make sure you scroll here and choose all the available options. So this says allow access when locked, and they're all enabled. So everybody can access my Today view, my notifications view, Siri, and home control, even when my iPad is locked. But if I disable these, and now if I turn my iPad off and let me turn it on, I cannot access the Today's panel, the notifications panel. Now control center is still accessible, and the reason is because you have to turn that off from a different screen. So let's go back in. What you want to go is you want to go into the settings. This time, instead of going to Touch ID and passcode, go to control center right over here. And again, access on lock screen, disable that option, and when I turn the iPad off this time and turn it on, it's not going to allow me to access the control center. So thankfully my iPad is in a total lockdown. Now going back into the Touch ID and passcode over here, let me put my PIN number. Another thing I want you guys to understand is over here it says fingerprints. So it says finger 1. Now what is finger 1? What if you were trying to manage your fingers? Let's say you go in here and you're trying to delete a fingerprint. You don't even know what finger you're talking about. So anytime you scan your fingerprint, make sure you go in here and rename it. So this one is my left thumb, okay? So that gives me a better understanding of what fingerprint I'm about to delete or modify. Now while we are in this security setting, there's two things you have to make sure are 100% enabled. Now make sure the required passcode is set to immediately. So that means anytime you lock your iPad, it's locked immediately. It doesn't wait for the iPad to get locked. And the other thing is at the bottom here it says erase data. You can enable this option, but this option is a little bit dangerous, but it's also very protective. So it says if somebody tries to access your iPad and they try to keep guessing your PIN number, what they could do is at some point they could guess it if they try all these different combinations. So this restricts them from doing that. So basically, if they put the passcode in 10 times in a row incorrectly, it's going to erase the iPad. So only enable this option for maximum security and also make sure the iPad is in fact backed up. So if someone does end up messing up your iPad by deleting all the data by trying to guess your password, you can at least restore it back. All right, let's move on to the next tip. So next up, let's talk about the floating menu. So to enable this menu, let's go to settings and just go up. Go to General and then go to Accessibility. Now once you're in Accessibility, what you want to do is you want to scroll down to where it says Assistive Touch and enable this little floating menu. As soon as you do that, you're going to see a little black icon on the screen that you can simply move around and put anywhere on the screen. Okay? So what are the functions of this button? There's a lot. If you tap on it, it expands and it allows you to use the buttons over here to pull down the notifications panel if you want to, or to pull up the control center if you want to, or if you want to use it as a home button, you can do that as well. So if I tap this, if I tap this, it's going to act as a home button as well, just like this one over here. So tap it again and there's some other options. You can bring up Siri if you so desire. You can tap it again and you can go into Device and that gives you even more options. You can rotate the screen, lock the screen. So if I tap this, the screen gets locked. So I have to return that on, go back in here. Absolutely fantastic. And the thing with this menu is you can actually, if I go to Device, I can tap on More, and I can even take a screenshot. I can tap this, and that will take a screenshot of the screen I'm looking at the time. But you can go back into the settings, and you can customize the top level menu. So I can take off all the icons if I wanted to, and just add one of them. So tap this, and just pick something that you want to use, let's say Siri. So now I can use this as a single function software touch button accessible from any screen. I tap this and that brings up Siri, okay? Again, if you go back into settings, you can choose any option that you want that is listed here. So that is the floating menu. Let's move on to the next tip. Now a couple other things you can do in the accessibility menu also is let's say you're looking at the text and it's not bold enough for you. You guys can actually just enable that and that just immediately boldens all the text on the iPad. Now when you do tap this bolden text icon, it's going to ask you to restart your iPad, and once you restart the iPad, it's going to, the text everywhere across the iPad is going to look like this over here. See how that is bolded? So it's going to convert just to that. So let me cancel that for now. The other thing you can do is when I pull down the notifications panel, as you can see, we have a sense of translucency. So you can see through the notifications panel to whatever is in the back. So I can see that I'm in the settings screen in a translucent way. So if what I could do is I could actually increase the contrast of the screen, and that translucency, that transparency actually disappears if it's something that is bothering you. Okay, so I know a couple people that didn't like that. So this is an option here to simply change that to a solid block of color. All right. And again, within this menu, there's an amazing little option. It's that speech button here. So what you want to do is you can do two things. You can actually allow the iPad to talk to you. So not talk to you, I'm sorry, to dictate stuff to you. So there are two options for that. The first one is speak selection. Okay, so let me just enable this, and what's going to happen is let me go back into the notes over here, and let's select a block of text. Let's just do select all over here. Now after I do a selection process of the text, there's a new option that says speak, and if I tap on the speak,
this script can be read. Even a book can be read to you with this option.
It's going to actually go ahead and read it to me. It's going to dictate the selected text for me. Now the other option that is right underneath the speak selection is the speak screen. So if I enable this, what I could do is, let's go to a website really quick. Let's just cancel this out. Let's go to Google. So all you do is you swipe with two fingers from top to bottom, and it brings up a speak selection. It starts to read the whole thing to you. So let me just show you what it looks like.
A fast way to browse on iPad. Chrome is a fast, simple and
So it's reading this text right over here. So if this was an ebook, and if you went like that, it's going to read the whole ebook to you. You can play,
Pure browser for
you can pause, you can increase or decrease the speed of the speech and all that good stuff. When you're done, you tap on X and that thing disappears. All right, so these are the options that you have hiding under accessibility. Now the next thing I want to talk about is the camera. Now believe it or not, your iPad Pro 10.5 comes with a fantastic camera. This is the same camera you can find on the iPhone 7, which is a world-class camera. So it is only natural that you guys know exactly what you can do with the camera. Now when you launch the camera, not much is going on. It's very easy. You know, you can take photos, you can switch to video, slow motion shots and all that. That's pretty straightforward. But you do have some options you can actually customize by going into these settings. So if you go into the settings over here, and if you scroll down to where it says photos and camera, you can go right in. And here's what I want to really talk about. Now we're going to skip these things, but this is the camera settings right here. Now first and foremost, you can enable a grid, which allows you to better align pictures. So this gives you a 2x2 grid over here, so you can better align pictures when you're taking a picture. And the other things are very important. Two things is record video. So if you go into record video, you actually have 4 different options. Okay, so you can record at 720p at 30 frames per second, or 1080p at 30 frames per second, which is a default option. So if you never change this, this is the quality you were getting at all times. But you can do much better than that. You can go to 1080p at 60 frames per second, which gives you an extremely smooth and stable video when you record it in this format. Now it's going to take a little bit more space on your iPad, but it's worth it. The other thing is, obviously your iPad is capable of recording in 4K at 30 frames per second. So make sure you guys are aware of all these options. Now one more thing, let's say I pick the 4K option. If I go back into my camera, and if I scroll over to my video, now it's going to actually tell you that it's in 4K mode. On the top it says 4K. So that's another way to tell what's happening at a given moment. If I choose 1080p at 60 frames per second and go back in, it is going to say HD, which is 1080p, and it says 60, which stands for 60 frames per second. Now if I go back over here at the bottom, your iPad is also capable of recording slow motion video, and it can do 720p at 240 frames per second or 1080p at 120 frames per second. If I go back here to the camera again, go to slow motion. So right now it's at 720p at 240 frames per second. But if I were to go back in here and choose the other option, and then if I go back into my camera app, on the top it'll say 120. That stands for 120 frames per second at high definition. All right, so make sure you are aware of these facts. Now one important option you should be aware of is if you scroll down over here, scroll up, it says iCloud Photo Library. So basically anytime you take a photo, if you enable this option, anytime you take a photo, that photo gets uploaded to your iCloud automatically. All right, just remember that. You can actually choose to optimize the iPad storage or download and keep the original images. So you take a photo, and with this option, it actually keeps the original photo on your iPad and also on iCloud. But if you go with this option, it's going to reduce the quality of the images that are on the iPad, which is going to take less space on the iPad, but it's going to upload the quality images to iCloud, okay? So it's a little tricky, but it's something you should be aware of. All right, so the next tip has to do with Siri. So let me just give you a very quick example. I'm sure you guys know what to do with Siri a lot, but there's some things a lot of people still don't know about. So if I pull down the control center, for example, I can use these toggles here, these quick toggles to disable Bluetooth or maybe enable Bluetooth. What I could do with Siri is I can actually enable and disable settings on and off by using Siri. So watch this. Siri, disable my Bluetooth.
Okay, I turned off Bluetooth.
So as you can see, Siri turned off Bluetooth, and I can actually turn it on if I wanted to. So, hey Siri, turn on my Bluetooth.
Okay, I turned on Bluetooth.
Absolutely fantastic. Okay, so make sure that you are aware that you can do all these little things with Siri. You can also toggle Wi-Fi on and off and all that good stuff. Alright, so next up, let's talk about multitasking on your iPad, and there's 3 ways you can multitask on the iPad. The easiest way is through Safari. So let's say you are in Safari. Let me just go to Amazon.com to demonstrate this better. And let's say that you want to do split screen Safari multitasking. So you can have 2 windows of Safari side by side at the same time. So let's say you're over here and you want to stay on this website, but you also want to check what's happening over here. On a link. So you press and hold on the link, and what's going to happen is it's going to give you an option that says open in split view. If you click that, it's going to open that window in a split view, so you can keep looking over here, and you can also keep browsing on this part of the on the website. So this is Safari's own split screen multitasking. Now what if I want to do multitasking between 2 different apps? This is very easy to do. So all you do, so let's go back into Safari. This is a regular view. And let's say that as I'm looking at Safari and I saw let's say I saw a price and I want to make a quick calculation. I want to do multitasking, right? So the first thing you can do is the slide over multitasking. So you slide over and then you can come here and you can choose any app that you want. So I don't have a calculator application right now, but let's say I want to listen to I just want to launch some music as I'm browsing the web. I don't want to exit the Safari web browser. I just want to do it from here. So I tap this and I choose something and I start playing it from here. Now the thing with this is a slide over view, so you can actually push this away or pull it in as you please. If you tap here, it also goes away. So what happens is when you pull this in, this screen is deactivated. This is the active screen. So it's for a quick look and then you move on, right? And by the way, if you're in the slide over view, you can pull down to switch between apps. So let's say I want to go over here and take a quick note, blah, 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 and then I can just get rid of this, okay? So that's slide over multitasking. Now what if I want split screen multitasking where I can interact with both windows at the same time? All you do is bring in any app that you want from the site, and then as you can see there's a little line over here. You tap on that line and that activates the split screen multitasking. Now I can actually resize the windows half and half if I wanted to. I can work over here and I can continue working over here. Okay, so the same, I can be watching a video on this side and I could be browsing on a website over here. Not bad at all. And let's say I'm done with the Notes application. All I do is I swipe it away. Oops, I'm sorry. From the middle here, you just swipe it away and it's gone. I could have swiped this way to get rid of Safari as well. Okay, so that's a split screen multitasking in Safari, slide over view, and also split screen multitasking on your iPad. And the final tip I want to talk about is something I use regularly. So let me go to Safari and let me go to google.com. Now obviously google.com is a website I visit a lot. Okay, so what I like to do is tap on the share button and choose the option that says add to home screen. Then it allows me to pick an icon, name, and a link, and then I click add, and now it's right here. So let me exit Safari for a minute. And let's say I want to go to Google. Instead of going to Safari and typing Google, I just tap on this and boom, it takes me straight to Google. Now on top of this, I like to do something even better. So I like to go to Amazon.com, for example. That's also a website I visit a lot. I do the same thing. Add to home screen, choose a name for the website, Amazon, click add. Now that's on my screen as well. What I like to do is I like to grab all these I like to put them in their own little folders. Okay, so from here it can be bookmarks, it can be shortcuts or whatever, but they're very conveniently placed on your home screen. From here I can go to my most frequently visited websites very easily. Alright, so that was the last tip, but let me just throw in a bonus tip really quick. If you pull down the notifications panel, if you want to get rid of notifications one by one, you can do things like this, and you can choose clear, you can do view, whatever. You can also do the same thing over here. You can tap on view, it's going to bring up the notification details. You can clear it up. But let's say you have hundreds of notifications and you want to get rid of them at the same time without having to individually swipe them away one by one. All you do is press and hold that X symbol, and then when clear comes up, you tap on it, and it basically clears everything. There could be 100 notifications, it will swipe them all away. Alright? Alright, so that brings us to the end of this video. I hope you guys learned a bunch of great tips so as to enjoy your iPad Pro 10.5 much better. Now make sure to subscribe to Saki Tech and give this video a thumbs up. Also, do not forget to follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Saki Tech Online. Guys, have a fantastic day.